Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at a Game Week 4 wildcard guide. So in this video, I'm going to talk through whether you guys should wildcard or you shouldn't, some advantages and disadvantages that you can consider before you take a look at the fixtures and then take a look at the wildcard team that, I'll be honest, looks really tempting as well. So hopefully you guys do enjoy this video, and if you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. It only takes a short while and it really goes a long way in supporting the channel. So I'd appreciate if you guys could do that. But let's jump straight into this video and talk about whether you should wildcard or not. Now, in Game Week 4, a lot of people are going to say it's really early, and the truth is, yes, it is, right? But there are some teams that are in dire situations and you may need it, but I think for majority of the teams, you are able to get to a decent team for Game Week 4 with a hit or two. So in general, I would advise against wildcarding, but I do understand some people who are in dire situations with your teams. Now, one of the main advantages of wildcarding in Game Week 4 is that you can get rid of your double Arsenal and your double Manchester United. So what I mean by this is a lot of us started out with the template pick of going with double Arsenal, double Manchester United. These are the likes of your Saka and Martinelli, or maybe Odegaard, as well as your Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford. Now, in Game Week 4, they're playing each other at the Emirates, and of course, it's not great. I think both teams are in a situation where they're not scoring a lot of goals, and they're kind of in a patch where it's quite difficult to get performances for their attackers as well. So I do feel like going double Arsenal and double Manchester United is no longer the way to go in terms of structuring our midfield. So if you wildcard now in Game Week 4, you definitely get to address that. And on top of that, you also get to offload your Brighton assets. Now, a game week or two ago, we were talking about how Brighton assets were just the best assets in the world, but all of a sudden, we already knew their fixtures were going to take a turn from Game Week 4 onwards. They have a really tough run, except for Game Week 6 where they play Bournemouth, and then after that, it's back to being a difficult run. From Game Week 4 all the way until Game Week 9 is tough fixtures for them. So the likes of Mitoma and maybe even Estupinian can be offloaded if you are on a Game Week 4 wildcard. Now, next, there are a couple of injuries that have popped up for some of our players. Some City defenders are injured, right? There are a couple of other injuries to some players as well. So obviously, wildcarding now in Game Week 4 will allow you to deal with these injuries, and on top of that, swap out some fringe players that you wouldn't usually swap out. So these would be the likes of your 4.5 million forward, for example, who I think at this point in time has come up as an option, Archer. Now, Archer has come up as an option for Sheffield United because he's completed his move and it's likely he will get consistent starts. So if you didn't start with Archer, you can potentially bring him in, and this is what I mean by swapping out some fringe players that you usually wouldn't, but it overall would contribute to the overall health of your squad. Right? So these are the main advantages of wildcarding in Game Week 4, but let's talk about the disadvantages because there are downsides to this as well. Right after Game Week 4, it is the international break. So as we all know, during the international break, there are a lot of injuries that can happen to players when they go on international duties. So wildcarding right before the international break may not be the best thing, right? And on top of that, if you guys can wait a little bit longer, just one game week longer, you get two additional weeks of information and maybe wildcard in Game Week 5 instead, right? So that's something you can consider. And then of course, the opportunity cost of using it now in Game Week 4 and not being able to use it later on in the season, or at least before the first wildcard expires, right? You can use it all the way up till Game Week 19, but of course, you never know what happens in FPL. The game changes so rapidly that if you don't have it anymore, you may be stuck in quite a tough situation later on in the season. Now that's of course hard to call, but in terms of whether your individual team needs it or not, then you can weigh whether there is a big enough opportunity cost for you to just use it right now and then forego using it next time. Right now, lastly, before we move on to the fixtures, I do want to mention that I think in general, quite a number of teams don't really need a wildcard. So I'm not going to advise whether you should wildcard or not, but I think looking at your team, if you can assess and take a look at some players and say, all right, maybe you can have this player for Game Week 4. It's not a must sell at this point in time. Maybe you can take a hit or two and then address some issues within your squad to just help it for Game Week 4 and then see how it goes after the international break, because players do come back from injury, etc. Right? So I would say that in general, most teams don't need a wildcard, and if you are able to take a hit, hits aren't a bad thing. I put it down there because I think I've received a couple of comments saying, should I take a -4? Is that too risky a move? Should I do a -8? I think the maximum I will go to this week is a -8 if I was saving my wildcard, right? If I was in a position where I'm very tempted to wildcard and I do want to save it, a -8 is the maximum I will go to. And in general, taking hits is not a bad thing, especially this early on in the season, because if you are able to fix some issues here and there that can pay off in the long run, then the hits aren't that bad inherently, right? So there we go in general with my thoughts on whether I think you should wildcard or not. Hopefully this segment was helpful for you. Let's take a look now at the best fixtures. So of course, there's no better place to start building a Gameweek 4 wildcard team by taking a look at the fixtures, and this fixture ticker here is using the Fantasy Football Hub fixture ticker, and I've ranked from Gameweek 4 to Gameweek 9 the top 10 teams in terms of fixtures, and surprisingly Luton Town is up there with quite a number of decent fixtures there as well. But of course, we're not going to back Luton Town, we're not going to back too many of their assets as well, right? But a little bit of a spoiler, I do have Kabore as a 4.0 million defender. Maybe just in case we want to take advantage of something there. But aside from that, you look at the teams below Luton Town like Brentford, Spurs, Chelsea. These are teams you want to target. Right, Brentford from the likes of Mbeumo, Spurs, there's Maddison, Chelsea, there's Sterling, there's Jackson, there's Chilwell, maybe even Gusto for those of you who want to go, a little bit more dangerous, right? But at this point in time, Reece James does seem like he's going to come back, so I don't think I would advise a Malo Gusto. But aside from that, their other assets are really, really good as well, right? So in terms of fixtures, I think Brentford, Spurs, and Chelsea's fixtures are really decent, right? Aside from the fact that Spurs has that back-to-back tough fixtures against Arsenal and Liverpool, the rest of the teams have pretty decent fixtures all around, right? So I definitely am going to target some Brentford, Spurs, and Chelsea players. Further down the line, there's also Newcastle and Man City. Now, Newcastle's fixtures are starting to take a turn, and they're starting to look up, so the likes of Kieran Trippier and maybe a Newcastle attacker or two can be considered. Now, Man City, of course, whether or not they have a tough fixture run or not, we will be targeting their assets in general. So definitely expect some Man City assets. And in general, when building your game week for wildcard, you would definitely have some Man City assets as well. Now, something interesting to note is also that Crystal Palace's fixtures are looking pretty decent. So Eberechi Eze, if he starts to pick up, can become an option. Wolves at home, Fulham at home, Nottingham Forest at home in the next 5 fixtures for them. So maybe this is when Eberechi Eze can start to perform. And then in the 9th place here, out of all these teams, the top 10 teams, in 9th place is Liverpool. Their fixtures are looking pretty decent now, and Darwin Núñez just scored 2 goals against Newcastle, so if he starts to get consistent minutes, maybe Darwin Núñez becomes an option. But in general, here are the best fixtures for the top 10 teams, and let's now use this information to build our Game Week 4 wildcard. So jumping straight into the team value is 99.4 million, so everyone can afford this team. It is not expensive at all. It's even below our starting budget of 100 million, right? So I'm pretty sure that a lot of us can get to this team, and boy, it looks really, really good. So it's a 3-5-2 formation, still pretty much sticking to the template 3-5-2, where we take advantage of all the midfield budget options that we have and then go for 2 forwards as well as 3 defenders. So taking a look at the players and breaking them down one by one. For keeper pairing, I've gone for a 4.5 Flecken from Brentford, as well as Areola, who's 4.1 right now, still really, really cheap, and he's on the bench. He's West Ham's starting keeper of choice, so I think in terms of a substitute keeper, he's definitely the one to go for. Flecken, on the other hand, is 4.5 million, and he plays for Brentford, and I do like Brentford's fixtures. As I mentioned just now in the best fixtures section, Brentford's fixtures are looking pretty good. So Flecken playing Bournemouth at home in Game Week 4, and pretty decent fixtures all around. I do think like he will keep a couple of clean sheets, and Brentford's expected goals conceded per 90 numbers are really good. It's actually 1.0 expected goals conceded per 90. So I really like Flecken as the 4.5 option. Definitely wouldn't go for Pickford, etc. Alright, so in defense, I've gone for Chilwell, Udogie, and Diaz. Now, Chilwell and Udogie are both really attacking options. We've seen Udogie already pick up an assist. Chilwell did so in his first game as well. And in general, Chelsea and Spurs fixtures, as I just mentioned just now as well, are pretty good. Right, Ruben Diaz, I've gone for him even though he's slightly more expensive, but I do feel like he's the most nailed Man City defender. And of course, he plays Fulham at home. Decent fixtures for Man City, and in general, they are the best defense in the league. 0.4 expected goals conceded per 90 for Man City for the first 3 games. So that's really, really good numbers that are putting up. Of course, against Sheffield, they did concede a very sloppy goal to Sheffield United. But aside from that, I think in general, you wouldn't see them concede a lot of chances. And I do think that clean sheets would be in store for Man City as well. Alright, so on the bench to cover the other 2 defenders, it's actually Trippier, who I have, he's lying on the bench waiting to get ready to come into the starting 11 after this Brighton away fixture. Right, he's only there on the bench for this Brighton away fixture, but sure enough, from game week 5 onwards, he's going to come into the starting 11 for this team. Now, the 5th defender I've gone for is Kabore, just a 4.0 million bench for the defender to have on the bench. We wouldn't really use him that much, right? So we're going to focus the funds in other areas of the team. Now, in midfield, I've gone for a very strong midfield 5 of Saka, Sterling, Fernandes, Maddison, and Mbeumo. Now, Maddison and Sterling are the ones that I've chosen to go for instead of maybe Phil Foden, who's a little bit more risky. Now in terms of Sterling and Maddison, I really do like them as picks. They've come up really well. Once the season started, they've just looked really, really sharp, right? Sterling, of course, one of the key players for Chelsea, creating loads of chances. Maddison as well, he's on everything. He's on set pieces, he's on corners, and of course at the heart of creating chances for Tottenham, and of course picking up a goal for himself in game week 3 as well. Right, there's no more injury fears with him because he's back from injury and he started the game week 3 game. He got taken off at a 70-ish minute just to be safe with him, but in general he's fine. Right, now aside from Maddison and Sterling, I've gone for Saka, Fernandes, and Mbeumo, all of them on penalties. Saka, may share penalties with Odegaard now and then, but he is still the first choice taker. So Saka, Fernandes, and Mbeumo are pretty much the template picks that I'm sticking with. They are game week 1 template picks that I think at this point in Game Week 4, we would still want to have them in our teams. And then up front, I have Haaland and Jackson. Now, both of them home fixtures. Haaland, there's no need to talk too much about him because obviously we're going to have him in our teams. And for Jackson, I've gone for this Chelsea triple up of Chilwell, Sterling, and Jackson to take advantage of the Chelsea fixtures that I think are really good. And they are looking up. I think Pochettino has done a great job at Chelsea, and I think Chelsea will be getting quite a number of goals in their coming fixtures as well. So do keep a lookout for this triple Chelsea as well. And last on the bench, I have Archer, who's a 4.5 million forward that I mentioned. Currently now he's playing for Sheffield United, so he will be getting consistent minutes for Sheffield. That is the expectation, and I do think like that is our 4.5 million forward there. If we do want to go a little bit different, we don't want to go for Archer, there is of course Semenyo from Bournemouth as well. So this is the team. This is a Game Week 4 team, a 3-5-2 formation with Trippier on the bench, of course, that will come in from Game Week 5 onwards. But let me know what you guys think of this team. I think it looks really tempting. It looks really strong, right? And how close can you get to this team for your own teams right now if you're not wildcarding? Maybe you can take a -4, maybe you can take a -8, and you can get to this team. Then I think it's good enough, right? You don't really need to wildcard. So let me know what you guys think of this team down in the comments below. Would you make any changes? Are you thinking of wildcarding in Game Week 4? I'd be keen to know down in the comments below. But if not, thank you guys for watching to this point. I hope this video was useful for you, and if you did enjoy it, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. We're on the road to 5,000 subscribers, so hopefully we can get there soon. But for now, I'll catch you guys in more Game Week 4 content coming thick and fast on the channel very soon. Bye bye.